me adjust this camera just a little bit more. All right. Sorry, I don't know what happened, but I hit live on the last one and it just, I guess my finger slipped because of how my phone was positioned and I deleted it or ended it or something. I don't know. So hopefully you found me here. I see that we got a few on tonight and excited about that. Excited to talk to you about the upcoming Mazda Crossovers, and that's what we're going to focus on this evening. So I'm going to give everybody a few minutes to jump on. Christian, glad you made it. My buddy Steven, glad you're there. Hanson, good to see you. I'm going to pull it up on this screen in front of me too. So how's everybody's week been so far? It's a Friday, so maybe most of you are got plans for the weekend. Any car meets or cars and coffee coming up tomorrow? Hello, Chagall. I see we've got a few people here, so we'll get started in just a second here. Turn all that down. Okie dokie. Well, I want to jump on into this crossover news. I've been fiddling with a few things earlier, and I just wanted to go over the information that I have for you now. Of course, I'm still excited about the CX-90. I know I've read a few articles out there. I know several of you, or many of you really on the channel, have purchased, and I've seen a lot in the Facebook groups. So shout out to Steven for those Facebook groups, especially the CX-90. And excited for you to be enjoying this new crossover. However, I'm very excited about the new large platform, large architecture that we'll be having hopefully in a few months. And I'll share more information on that in just a minute because it may be a little bit longer than we anticipated. But the first thing that I want to talk about is the CX-90. So we've seen it overseas, we've seen it come off the production line, and we have specs and information on the CX-90. So I wanted to give you a quick comparison on the CX-90 compared to the CX-90, or excuse me, the CX-9, because they're pretty close, and then we'll kind of go from there. So just to roll off some specs, and sorry for this to be a little technical or a little intensive here, but the current generation CX-9 has a wheelbase of 115 inches. The CX-90's 113. So you can see they're pretty close in that wheelbase. Overall length of the CX-9 is 199 inches. The CX-90 is going to be 187. So about a foot shorter than the current CX-9. The width of the CX-9 is 77 inches. The width of the CX-90, which of course this is a narrow body, so the width of the CX-90 is 74 inches, and the height of the CX-9 is 69 inches, and the CX-90 is going to be just under that at 66. So just to sum all this up, the current CX-9 that most of us are familiar with is about a foot longer than the CX-90 and a couple inches higher and a couple inches wider. And so you can kind of base this CX-90 size on that CX-9 a little bit less. Now let's compare that to the CX-5. The CX-5 and the CX-90, the CX-90 is actually a little bit bigger. And I want to show you couple of pictures here, which hopefully you can see. Let me see if they popped up over here. Let's see what we got here. The good thing about going live is There's no downtime. Actually, I think it'd be better if I show you on this larger screen here. So give me just a second. Let me pull it up here. Well, all right, so you may remember a picture of, can you see that? I feel like I'm at old school here. So you may remember this picture, and what I've done, this was with the release of the diesel. So what I've done is I've overlaid the CX-5 on the CX-60. Now hopefully you can see that. And so we've got CX-5 over here and CX-5 on top of the CX-60. And you can kind of see how that's going to fit. Let me find that original picture for you real quick. This was when the diesel was released in the CX-60. I'll pull it up for you in just one second. And I clicked off. Let me say hello to a few people here. Kevin got him. Good evening. Mike, good evening. William, good evening. And Kevin. We got two Kevins. Perfect. Well, apparently everything that I wanted to show you was on the other. All right. So let me show you this. Here's a video I made so we can kind of see that. Just a second. Sorry for the downtime here. All right. So check this out. Here's those CX-5, CX-60. And then you can kind of see how it's blending. Here's the profile shots. And you can see that the CX-5 is actually a little bit shorter than the CX-60. And we'll talk about those specs in just a minute. Remember this picture where they were side by side there? So I just overlaid those on top so that we could see for comparison. Because the information I had for you tonight is really just a speculation on what the CX-70 and CX-90, how they will actually be positioned as far as sizing. So what I wanted to share here is the comparison of the CX-5 and the CX-60. The CX-60 is a little bit longer at 187 inches, whereas we know the CX-5 is 180 inches. Also, the width is going to be close to the same, within a couple inches. So 72, 73 on the CX-5, 74 on the CX-60. And the height is 65 inches compared to 66 inches. So the CX-60 and the CX-5 are a lot more relatable as far as sizes. Now what I've done is I wanted to speculate here how big the CX-70 is, and I am going to release a video tomorrow or Sunday summarizing all this. So if I don't go through it without pictures, it's kind of hard to illustrate. So I will go over this in another video in the upcoming days. And I apologize, something just keeps itching my nose here. The CX-90 is going to be coming first. Now, I did receive information that Mazda released a couple of weeks ago that their fiscal year goes March to March. So they were summarizing their fiscal year of March 2022, and they have speculated or released information that the CX-90 will be produced or in production by the end of the next fiscal year, which would be March. So I originally expected the CX-90 to be produced and released in this calendar year of 2022, in the fourth quarter. However, It's more likely now that we're not going to see it until the very end of the year, if not the very beginning of next year. And I'm sorry for that. I hate it because I was really excited about this new large platform coming to America. However, at least we can see the CX-60 overseas, maybe get more insight from that. So what I've done is I took the specs of the CX-5 and the specs of the current gen CX-8 and compared those so that I can go from the CX-60 to the CX-80 and also the CX-9. Jamal and Ricky, I appreciate you guys jumping on. I'm going to try to go back at the end and go over any questions you have. So I do appreciate you jumping on, Ricky, and thanks for the well wishes. So the CX-80 and the CX-90, the only differences that I foresee is the width, right? Because the CX-80 is going to be a narrow body, the CX-90 is going to be a little bit wider. So the CX-80 measurements that I'm speculating here, using that CX-5 to CX-8 comparison, is that it will be 122-inch wheelbase, which is going to be a longer wheelbase than the CX-9, the current generation CX-9, and a longer wheelbase than the CX-50. Now these are just speculations, of course. The length is going to be 200 inches, which is right about the exact same as the current CX-9, and about 15 inches longer than the CX-50, and about 20 inches longer than the CX-5. The width of the CX-80, which is the narrow body, is going to be 74 inches, so the same width as the CX-60. And I know it was hard to see in those pictures, but if you notice with those mirrors out, the fenders were a little bit wider than the CX-5 that comes in at 72.5, but the mirrors were really tucked in to that, so that, again, for Japanese restrictions, the fenders and the mirrors kind of lined up. The height is going to be 68 inches, which is right about the same height as the current CX-9. So, much to my dismay, I was actually hoping the CX-90 would be a little bit longer than our current CX-9. However, I think with this new design, we could have a little bit better storage position, although it's not going to be a lot higher than our current CX-9. And that may be exactly what you want. You may want it to be similar to the CX-9 and the CX-90 with a new design. But I was hoping for a little bit more cargo behind the third row seat, and we still may get that with the new design on the back end there. So I think CX-90 is going to be the same length, 200 inches, same length, basically the same as CX-9. The width is going to be 2 to 3 inches wider, so about 76 to 77 inches, and it's going to be about the same, maybe an inch higher. Mazda have a CX-60, and a CX-50. Well, I chose a couple of other imports, and it looks like my feed might be getting a little choppy there. If so, I apologize for that. How is the picture? Can everybody still see and hear me? Anybody comment in there? Kevin, I appreciate that. I'll come back to that in just a minute. Can you still see me? Looks like on one of my screens I was chopping up a little bit. Okay, good deal. Appreciate it. So the CX-70 and the CX-90 are going to be relatively the exact same size with the exception of the length. So the length is going to be about 14 inches longer and have room for a third row seat and a little bit of cargo behind it. And really that 12 inches is only going to make a difference for, or 14 inches is only going to make a difference for the cargo. So looking at a couple other imports, Honda, number one, they have the Passport and the Pilot. They are about 8 inches difference in length. Of course, the Passport is a 2-row, the Pilot is a 3-row, and they are the exact same width and 1 inch difference in height. Now, if we look at Mazda's partner, Toyota, the Highlander and the Venza, which is the closest size underneath it, the Venza and the Highlander are 10 inches difference in length, and then their width is 3 inches difference in width. So the Highlander is 3 inches wider, and the height is 2 inches difference. So, and the Venza is a 2-row, and the Highlander is a 3-row. So you can see that other manufacturers are doing these as well. And so Mazda's just offering more crossovers to be more competitive in other segments. But specifically, these are going to be more premium as Mazda's been pushing. And so I've got some information on the pricing on that that we'll get into in just a minute. Real quick, I just wanted to sum up in case you have questions about the powertrain, what we're going to see on the CX-70 and the CX-90. Of course, the first thing that we're going to see on the CX-90 is the 2.5 liter plug-in hybrid, and this is going to have a 323 horsepower combined with the motor and the engine, and 369 foot-pounds of torque. We don't know yet because this is the same one that's going to be in the CX-60, so we don't know the correct MPGe fuel rating, but we do know that it's going to get about 39 miles on a full EV or full electric drive. So 39 miles, and it's working with a 17.8 kilowatt hour battery. The powertrain includes an 8-speed, probably a dual clutch 8-speed transmission, which is new, and I'm excited about that to see it hopefully in other vehicles as they roll out towards new generations. And the second engine that we're going to see is a 3-liter inline V6, and this has been speculated somewhere around the 325 to 350. I'm sorry, Jamal, if it's hard to hear. I think it's the I'll slide up a little bit. I think it's the feed. Can you hear me any better? I slid that up. Can you hear me any better? Jamal, give me a thumbs up in the chat or a yes if you can hear me better. Anybody out there? Hello. Can anybody hear me? Can you still see me? Okay. All right. All right, good. Thanks, Stephen. Thanks, guys. So it's a 3-liter V6, or excuse me, a 3-liter inline 6, and so a straight 6, longitudinally placed. And if you saw my last video on the CX-60, it was actually a space in the front from the 2.5 liter, which is 4 cylinders, so plenty of room for that longitudinal placed engine. And it will be a 3-liter, and it's speculated between 325 and 350 horsepower, and it will be turbocharged. So not sure of the exact layout because they haven't released it even on the CX-60. So looking forward to seeing some more information there. But this one's going to have about 400 foot-pounds of torque. So I imagine that we may be getting close to a 5,000 pound towing capacity. That would be amazing on the CX-90. So excited for that. The last thing that I want to cover, and then we'll jump into some questions and answers here for you, is the estimated pricing. So Brian, the inline 6 is going to be turbocharged. So it may be twin turbo. We're not 100%. The estimation on pricing, according to Car and Driver right now, is the CX-70 starting at $38,000 on the entry level, and the CX-90 starting at $40,000. Now, of course, a previous video of mine looked at the UK prices on the CX-60 and estimated with taking that currency difference at starting at $48,000 on the CX-70. I don't think that's going to be correct because obviously there's different taxes and different features and things like that. But I do expect the CX-70 and the CX-90 to max out around $54,000 to $55,000. So potentially, if they have a Premium Plus, it's going to be about $10,000 more than the Premium Plus of the CX-50. So we'll have to see more as we get closer, but I think the CX-70 in a Premium Plus model is probably going to be somewhere in the low 50s. So we'll see how that goes, see how it comes, and go from there. Now, I'm going to scroll back and see if there's any questions that I missed. If you have any fresh questions, go ahead and drop them in the chat now, and I'll come back to you. And I'm going to take a sip of my trusty Chick-fil-A tea. Let's see, let's go back. Kevin says he's wondering if the hood will take up the same percent of length or if the bigger engine will eat up more of the extra length. I think the hood is going to be very similar to what we see on the CX-50 and the 60. And of course, because there was enough room in that 60 for this engine. So it will be a longer hood like the CX-50, but it will not account for any change in the layout of the vehicle. Benjamin, I didn't see you there. Glad you could jump in. Nighttime there for you, but I appreciate you jumping in. Thanks. Hanson says, would the 6-cylinder have a mild hybrid system? Yes, it does. I'm sorry for overlooking that. It's a 48-volt mild hybrid system. So it will probably use most of that for like a stop. When it's at a stop, the engine will shut off and it will run that way, but we'll find out more information as we get closer. Jamal asked about the order bank on the CX-90. Well, all I can tell you right now is that originally we as Mazda dealers had to order charging systems for this plug-in hybrid, and the vendor that we're using, which I believe, if I remember correctly, was ChargePoint, that vendor is supposed to have it to us in August or September, and the original thing is that we were going to get allocated these vehicles and they were going to come in October, but I'm hearing that it may be pushed back. So early allocation will not be an order bank. It'll kind of be like the CX-50 where they say, hey, everybody's getting, in the case of the CX-50, a Turbo Premium Plus in 2 colors. So I imagine it'll be the same way like that. But so it's going to be end of the year if it gets pushed back, depending on what happens. Let's see here. What about hybrid? So we'll have a plug-in hybrid on this new crossover, and the CX-50 hybrid will probably not come out till second half of next year as a 24 model if it comes out at all. Now, I did see a question on the original live, and again, I apologize for that, but the original live was asking some questions about the, will these be 23 models? Their plan originally was for all 5 new crossovers to be 2023 models. They will be releasing some in 23 as 23 models, and then we may have CX-50 24 models in the summer of 23, so we'll wait and see. Okay, let me, Steven wants to see the hybrid hood. Let me pull that up here for you. I'll pull up the video that I showed the other day, the look at the hood. All right, so did y'all remember this from my video the other day? So here's a look at the long hood, trying to get where you can see it without any light reflections. All right, so here's the long hood. And let me show you the inside of the engine bay. They actually had the engine cover open. All right, so here's with the engine cover open, and you can see that there's plenty of room from that radiator cap to the actual engine. See if I can Where's my finger at here? Hello. There I am. All right, so right in this area here, you can see that there's a lot of space right there, and from that radiator cap, and that's where the room for the 2 extra cylinders or the little bit larger engine from 2.5 to 3 liter will fit in there. Let's go back here. So the hybrid system on the CX-50 will be based on Toyota's system. So right now the engineers are in process of fitting the battery pack and everything into the CX-50, and they haven't got it all sorted out yet, but that's the Toyota system. I apologize again for my runny nose here. The release date of the CX-50 hybrid, I believe, will be next summer or fall as a 24 CX-50. Brian, I haven't done a Mazda News update on the CX or on the sales totals yet. So I will do that probably tomorrow perhaps and upload it over the weekend or early next week. But yes, the sales were dramatically down because April, May, June are April, May, June, or May, June, July are extremely low production months, the lowest projected of the year for Mazda. And thankfully, Tuesday at the end of May, the quarantine or lockdown on China was lifted so that those employees of parts supply companies could go back to work and start shipping and producing more parts for Mazda to import into Japan. So hopefully it's picking back up. Ben, what do I think of a renamed Mazda CX-3 into CX-2 and a new CX-3? I think the CX-30 replaced the CX-3. I know that the CX-30 in some markets is named the CX-4, but the CX-30 is the new CX-3. I don't see them going back into those old platforms. They could very well come out with a new platform in a few years when they get back to building sedans and smaller crossovers. Jamal says, do you think a model will be released at the Detroit Auto Show in September? I actually heard from a buddy, Bert Chu, just this afternoon that originally I think the CX-90 was going to be at the Los Angeles Auto Show. Not sure if that's still going to be the case or not. So we'll have to wait and see there. Joseph, thanks for jumping on. I'm hearing the CX-90 will be larger than the Telluride. I hope so. The Telluride is actually, again, I apologize. The Telluride is actually around that 200-inch length as well in the Palisade. So I would love it if the CX-90 was a little bit bigger. Just for comparison, the Tahoe, the Chevy Tahoe, is 211 inches long. So we don't want the inline six to stretch that far and be underpowered. So I think that 200 to 205 inches is probably where it's going to max out, probably right at that 200, which would be in line with the Telluride. Of course, the Telluride is a little bit wider than our current CX-9 and a little bit taller. So if the CX-90 could have that stretch as well, and we know it's going to be wider than the 80 and the 60, then I think we'll be doing good. Somebody had commented earlier that they wanted me to talk about the new CXT800 and the CXT1000. Appreciate the Terminator reference there, and so maybe they can battle it out. Oh, okay, Ricky. So the red wires instead of the yellow add 10 horsepower. Is that on the plug-in portion? Yes, Steven, CX-3 is still available in Europe, and I think it's just a part exhaustion thing. So Mazda 2 is available in some places. CX-3 is available, all in the same setup there, same chassis. Yeah, buddy, I think that was you on the T800 and T1000, wasn't it? All right, does anybody have any more questions before we wrap it up tonight? Again, I apologize for the snafu on the first live, but I'm glad we were able to talk tonight. Glad we were able to share some information on the Mazda Crossovers. Again, stay tuned in the next couple of days. I've got some new CX-50 videos dropping. Some of you owners out in the world enjoying your off-road and recreational CX-50. And then I'll also have kind of a recap of some of this information with more photos and videos on the CX-70 and CX-90. Benjamin, do I have any thoughts about Mazda's EV in 2030? Well, they're rolling it forward now. So we're going to have MX-30, which is overseas and in California. We're going to see more of it. Also, we're going to see more hybrids, probably plug-in hybrids, maybe a CX-5 hybrid, of course the CX-50 hybrid, and I think that those will be more for 2025, and then 2030 EVs are going to be some off this new large platform, maybe new smaller platform, just new vehicles coming. So it's going to be exciting, and I'm glad to be here for the next decade with Mazda. Hanson, I appreciate you jumping on, and share this to anybody that has any questions about the CX-70 and CX-90, and maybe some about the CX-60, but the new crossovers in general. And again, I'll try to have a more concise video available in the next day or two for this information. Does anybody else have any questions before we sign off? Steven, I appreciate you being there. MX-30, I can't wait for it to maybe come to Alabama so we can check it out. Thank you guys for joining me tonight, and thank you for your support of the channel. I will try to be more frequent with these live streams. And before I jump off, if you can drop a quick comment, what do you think about the shorts? I've been trying to drop a few of those, some less than 30 seconds. Just comment down below if you think you're interested in those or appreciate them. And I try to just mix it up a little bit. You know, I have more of those on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, but just curious as to what you guys think about seeing them in your YouTube feeds. So, yeah, the CX-60 is not out yet. That's correct, Stephen. So thank you guys again. I appreciate you joining me tonight, and I will see you on the next video. Have a good evening. Signing off.